the larger data set that I have, this data set has 30 participants in it. I still have to add, I have a bunch of surveys from the past couple of semesters that I have to enter, including your data from this semester. But we have 30 participants in this data set, and it'll work for our purposes here. So this video is about making a composite variable from different items or different variables. So in our case, we have 3 happiness scores. So I randomly assign you to put the straw in between your teeth or your lips. And then I measured your happiness today, in general, and happiness about your academic life here at Abington. Now I assume that these 3 items are going to be highly correlated with one another. And we're going to check to see if it's appropriate to sort of simplify the data by creating a composite variable of these 3 individual items. Composite, just merely saying that we're going to create an average of these 3 items, that we're going to take the average of these 3 items to form a composite variable. And so if you may have heard that word composite before in terms of maybe in geology or biology, when you have a composite of something, it's made up of different individual things. Like a composite rock means that it's made up of multiple different types of rocks. And so here, composite variable meaning that's going to be made up of or composed of multiple different items. So to check to see if it's appropriate to make a composite of these items, we're going to check the internal reliability for these 3 items. You may also hear the term internal consistency. All right. So we're going to go to Analyze, and then we're going to go to Scale, and then we're going to go to Reliability Analysis. And then we're going to add the 3 items here. And you can hold down Control to select them all, or you can hold down the Shift key to select them all, and then we want to bring those 3 over into this box. And then you want to click on Statistics and click on Scale if item deleted. Press Continue. And then instead of pressing OK, we're going to press Paste. And so once you press Paste, SPSS will open a syntax window up. And so syntax meaning just programming language. So anytime you want to do something in SPSS, there's normally a programming language behind it. And so by pasting the syntax, you can then save this file and then create a record of everything that you're doing in the data file. So you can take notes in here and save this as a record of your activity, which I'd highly recommend. So to run this, we're going to highlight and then press the little green arrow, which means run. And then you're going to get a 3rd window open, which is the output window. As I described in a previous video, I think the output window is where all your results are going to appear. All right. And so I think I'll sort of limit the discussion to what you need to know here. And so what you do need to know is ultimately this statistic called Chrome box alpha. So Chrome box alpha is our measure of internal reliability or internal consistency. So this is telling us whether we can create a composite, whether it's appropriate or how appropriate it is to create a composite of these 3 variables. So Chrome box alpha is telling us how well these 3 items hang together as a group. And so generally you want Chrome box alphas above 0.7. So Chrome box alphas can range from 0 to 1. So 0 to positive 1. You can't have negative Chrome box alphas. So the range is 0 to +1, and generally we want alphas over 0.7. So usually 0.7 to 0.9 is okay, 0.8 to 0.89 is good, and then 0.9 and above is excellent. So here our kernel box alpha is 0.82. That means that our internal consistency is good, that alpha is telling us that it is appropriate to create a composite of these three variables. And I think that's all I'll talk about. If we were going more in depth, I'd talk more about this table, but not right now. So you want to focus on kernel box alpha when you're doing this. So over 0.7, good sign, you can create a composite. And so we'll actually go back to the syntax window, and we'll do this in syntax. We'll create this composite variable in our syntax window, and so we'll write out compute, and then name our new variable, our new composite variable. So I'll call it maybe happy. I like to call it happy total, but that's more than 10 characters, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my gosh, it's 10 exactly. So that's good. So happy total, and then equals mean, open parentheses, and then we're going to copy and paste the three variables, close parentheses, period, and then we're going to write execute. All right, and then we're going to highlight that and run it. And so you'll see the command in your output window, and if you don't see any errors, generally, that's a good thing. So for example, if you misspelled a variable name, like you spelled today incorrectly, and then you try to run it, you will get a error. So it says text, ta-da, it'll alert you that this is not a variable within the data set. So whenever you see error, that will let you know that something's wrong. It may not always be clear about what's wrong, but okay. So you can also, well, I should say, we can check our back to our data file, and you can see that now we have a composite variable, happy total, which again is the average of these three variables. So now we have a new composite variable, happy total. You can also do this through the drop-down menu. You can create this happy total variable through the drop-down menu. You can go to, let's see, transform, compute variable, and then you could have your new variable. So you could do happy total, and then equals, and then you would have to find the mean function here. Which is underscoring statistical, under statistical, and then you could do mean, and then add your three variables, 1, 2. All right, and then hit paste, and then it's asking change existing variable because I already have that variable, so I'll just do happy total 2 because I can't name this the same variable as our composite variable there. But if you hit paste, you can see here the syntax is identical, except there's a 2 here. So that's, you can do it through a drop-down menu, but after working in SPSS for so long, it's just easier to do it through the syntax for me. But you can do it either way. And then again, I would recommend saving this syntax. You can keep notes in it. For example, if we want to write a note, we can do an asterisk or 2 asterisks and then put a note. So we can do a note about alpha in here. So alpha equals 0.82. That's 0.82, right? 0.82. Rounded to two decimals is 0.82. So we can just note that in there, and then we can also save this syntax file. So much. And then this is with the straw experiment. So I'll go first day, H experiment. And then you can, save it as whatever you want to. It's like 200. Spring 2019 straw experiment. Add another asterisk there. And that's how you create a composite variable.